it kind of brings up an interesting question. So Bob Nutting has taken a ton of heat, and but now you look at it, you got you've got Griffin signing the contract, you got Schemes there for at least a couple of more years. Is Bob Nutting now a better owner than Art Rooney because he invested money in the team?
I don't think so. I think now Bob Nutting is finally starting to do that. I think Paul Skeens, he's gonna have a decent amount, not decent. He's playing very well, but he's gonna play well this year. They're gonna do what they can to keep him. Obviously, they're moving up a lot of prospects. They get the young prospects because of how bad they are. So I think now Bob Nutting he's trying to do something. But I think with Art Rooney, he runs one of the best organizations in his sport. Whether regardless how the Steelers have been in recent years, they are the 6-time Super Bowl champs. It's a family thing. He runs one of the most stable franchises in all of sports. Um, where the Steelers are rarely on the bottom. I mean, we're playoff contenders usually every year. The Pirates unfortunately haven't been in the playoffs since what, 2013, 15, around there was the last time when we play. I remember the Reds game, obviously the famous Reds game where Russell Martin hits that home run. That's the last time Pittsburgh baseball felt relevant. Steelers football is relevant every year. Um, and I do think now recently the Art Rooney criticisms are coming more in the light because obviously when the NFLPA grades came out, the Steelers were on the bottom. I mean, how do you have an F in family travel or whatever the one thing was? It was some of those categories. I talked about it on my show. I'm like, how do you get an F in this? What are you doing? So and I guess recently he's become, I don't know, cheap. What I mean by cheap, facility, there are some spending concerns with some people. So I think now maybe the tables are starting to turn a little bit, but I do think Bob Nutting has the Pirates basically need to make the playoffs for me to really have this conversation, in my opinion. But so far, I think the tables are starting to flip, and if this year the Pirates can get to the playoffs, I think we can have this conversation in a more better way. And I actually might see what Bob Nutting, I don't know if I'll take his side because again, I still think the Steelers will be the Steelers, but if he can get us to the playoffs, especially with this, young team we have now, Neo Cruz is still playing good ball, Brian Reynolds is still relevant. I might come back to this conversation in a different answer.
It's interesting. So Steeler fans, there's a large segment who wanted them after Ben retired. Regardless of how you felt about Kenny Pickett, a lot of the fan base liked him. A lot of the fan base thought it was a huge mistake to pick him. But there's been this growing consensus over the last year or two to, hey, we should tear it down. We should start over. And they just have not shown the willingness to do that. So, relevant every year, but we haven't won a playoff game in a decade, which, even in the worst decade prior to this, the 1980s, we went to an AFC championship game. We pulled a big upset. There were some wins in there. So it becomes interesting that, now do I think Nutting intentionally ripped it down to the studs with the Pirates and they built through the draft and built the organization back? They had a 5-year plan that took 7 years. So I don't know how genius Nutting is, other than, let's face it, you hit on a big guy like Schemes, you hit on Connor Griffin. All of a sudden it's, hey, there's things are looking up. It looks pretty good. If the Steelers hit on a quarterback, all of a sudden things are looking up, things are looking pretty good. But I think it's interesting that Art is older than his father was, Dan, and that the chief, Art Rooney Sr., was when they gave up control of the team. And
Okay, yeah.
Daniel Rooney seems poised to take over. I love the fact that you saw Daniel Rooney at pro days. He played quarterback for Dartmouth. He's a guy who I think when he takes over the team, and hopefully that's sooner rather than later, he's a guy that I really think is going to start to do things differently like he used to do in Pittsburgh. And like you said, with the failing grades and everything, what did somebody's family member have to pay for a hot dog? And,
I mean, hey, Joey Porter Jr. seems. I mean, obviously senior, excuse me. Obviously, he's who he is in the Steelers organization. But dude, he's at the games and he looks like he's like having the best time of his life. It's like they treat him like God. I wonder how they treat the other families or whatever it was. Nutrition wasn't great either. Their field conditions sucked, which, not to get too off topic, but the field conditions suck because they let the Pittsburgh Panthers use that field. The Steelers, like, let's say they play on a Saturday. The Steelers will play on like, if they have games back to back there, the field gets sucked, and they use that heavily for high school football in Western PA. So, they need to invest more in Rooney needs to invest more into the facilities. Bob Nutting needs to invest more into the team.
there you go. All right, well, let's talk about our good friend Aaron Rodgers.
Oh boy.
A lot of news about the quarterback position here this week. So Mike Florio, I don't know if you saw it, went on the PM team, and he did it on his Pro Football Talk throughout the week, saying that all of a sudden the Denver Broncos are interested in Aaron Rodgers. I don't know how to feel about the idea that Denver wants to sign Aaron Rodgers, but when you consider what they got out of Peyton Manning at the end with a great defense and got to a Super Bowl, they try to catch lightning in a bottle. They think Aaron Rodgers is going to bring him a Super Bowl.
Bo Nix probably would have got him a Super Bowl if he was healthy last year. Drake May and the Patriots were not playing great during that playoff run. I strongly believe if Bo Nix is healthy, he's going to the Super Bowl. I don't think Aaron. Look, I'm not saying this because I want Aaron Rodgers in Pittsburgh. I mean, at this point, we'll get into the others, Kirk Cousins situation later. But at this point, I don't know how mad or whatever I would be if he's actually there. I don't see why. Like when I actually did see this. Like you said, when we were exchanging DMs, I went back and I researched. I was like, huh? Obviously, I'm involved with the wrestling stuff. Haven't seen much about it. So I looked into it, all that stuff. I don't understand. I mean, they just got Jalen Waddle. They have Cortland Sutton still. They have a decent defense. I don't know why they need to have Aaron Rodgers there. And we're going to talk about this too. I think both topics that we're going to talk about kind of have to do with this because you have, I think, Bo Nix. He's one of the few quarterbacks recently. Him, Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, where it's like they come in and they get the ball. They're like, okay, we're gonna build this team around you, no question. Like, they're doing that with Bo Nix. They did that with Bo Nix, and he's proven himself. Injuries happen, whatever, but I don't see why you need to add Aaron Rodgers in this Denver Broncos team. If they want to, whatever. I don't see why Rodgers would want to do that. I think he would be a backup personally. But again, Sean Payton, like you said, has a history with veteran quarterbacks, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees later on in his career. So I don't know. I think it's very interesting. I think it makes no sense.
Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing for Denver, it's not so much, Knicks probably beats the Patriots. I don't know that he beats Seattle. I'm not the biggest Bo Nix fan. I haven't been since he came out in the draft. I mean, he played virtually in every college in the United States. But, it gets intriguing with, okay, if Denver all of a sudden says, oh, Aaron Rodgers, I don't know how you're going to convince Aaron Rodgers to go there and, okay, maybe you start a couple of games at the beginning of the season, but then you give way to Bo Nix and do a backup. Aaron Rodgers is not interested in being a backup for a ring, whether he wants to get a ring or not. I mean, he wants to be the star of the team. He's got a ring, so it's not like he's completely ring chasing. Peyton Manning knew he was going to be the starting quarterback in Denver.
Exactly.
Wasn't very good at the end, but he did have a couple good years in Denver before that. I mean, yeah, they got Jalen Waddle and they got some nice pieces, and overall they're a pretty interesting, good team. The defense is really, really good, but I don't get it. I don't understand why. You're talking about a guy who, look, I don't think he's portrayed fairly in the media because I think he kind of proved in Pittsburgh that he's not this big attention seeking jerk. And he turned out to be a pretty good guy, as according to all the media goes. But to all of a sudden say he's going to go to Denver and chase a ring, I
No,
I wonder
that's
how much of
ridiculous.
the yeah, I wonder how much of this is, you know, Florio's not a hot take guy, but I wonder how much of this is just, hey, somebody whispered in his ear a hot take and he just ran with it because it's slow.
No, it makes no sense. Again, like their defense is pretty good. They have a good offense. They have a good team. They almost went to the Super Bowl last year if Bo Nix is healthy. I think, like you said, he doesn't need a ring chase. His best bet, I think, what he really wants to do is be in Pittsburgh. I think that's not his best, not just his best bet. He wants to reunite with McCarthy, some of his former his coaching staff, some of the former coaching staff that's been in Green Bay. Obviously, he's been there 1 year, so it's not like this is the Aaron Rodgers experiment. You know, we saw that last year. We already went through that, and I think we'll talk about that again later. But I think if you do want Will Howard to be your future, I mean, obviously Rodgers talks great about him. Rod, Mason or not Mason Rudolph. Will Howard respects the hell out of Aaron Rodgers, and he's a great locker room leader. And I was gonna say Mason Rudolph because you can see Mason Rudolph's just his vibe in the lock. He did not have that same respect he did for Big Ben, and I think it helps
Mm-hmm.
all around better in the quarterback room. So I think his best bet is just to come to Pittsburgh, see what it is for a year. I think our team's slightly better. Again, it makes no sense. I mean, the Broncos literally went through the whole Russell Wilson situation, and now they're finally away from it. They have their guy. They added another offensive weapon who I think wasn't utilized to his full potential out in Miami. There's no reason you need Aaron Rodgers on this team, and there's no reason Aaron Rodgers needs to go to Denver.
Well, you think about it with the injury. So, I mean, there's a couple questions at play. Do they really think he's not going to be ready for the beginning of the season and maybe deep into the season? Because that's the only reason you go get somebody.
Yes.
I mean, if it's 3 weeks, you don't go get Aaron Rodgers for what'll probably be $20-30 million. But if you remember back to the end of the season when he got hurt, Bo Nix really didn't like it when Sean Payton put his health out there. I wonder if there's a rift because Sean Payton and Russell Wilson didn't get along.
Nope.
Is there a Bo Nix Sean Payton thing brewing here where they can't get along? Is he out on Bo Nix?
That's hard because again, he's played very well in that playoff run. You know, he played super well. It could be. Again, I think Bo Nix he's not one of these veteran quarterbacks. So he's not been in the league long enough to where he's like, okay, I'm Bo Nix. Like he's gonna have to adapt to Sean Payton at the end of the day. That is his coach. It's not like Rodgers comes in. You know, I'm Rodgers. I'm the former MVP, Super Bowl champion. You know, let me have some say here. So if it is something like that, I just think it's something to where, okay, Bo Nix isn't too pleased with Sean Payton, but that's his coach, and he's just gonna have to deal with it. I understand him getting upset, because I understand. I know what you're talking about, where Bo Nix did, you know, whatever because Aaron or Sean Payton did leak his health. Look, he's
Mm-hmm.
answering a question to a reporter. It's not like that's private information. The whole world saw you get hurt on national television. People are looking for updates. You don't have to get into the specifics of it, but I don't know. I don't think it's not there yet to where it's a big deal. But I do think if, you know, let's say Bo Nix does come back, he's there for the full year. Aaron Rodgers doesn't go there. If he doesn't make the playoff, if he's not as strong as he was, because the thing about Denver, the little times that I've watched them, I've noticed that they were very, very strong when it came to fourth quarter comebacks. That was one of that
Mm-hmm.
when I saw the Broncos were losing by like 14 or something in the fourth, I'd always want to go watch it because I figured they would come back. If they can't do something like that, or just be in the spot that they were last year, then I think it's, we could start to see that.
Yeah. So it becomes the question I would have is, let's just say for a second, let's play it out. Let's say he is out on Bo Nix. Let's just say, look, there there's been some, hey, he kind of created him. Nix has played a lot better than I thought he would, honestly. In
Me too.
fairness,
Yes, me too.
he's been a better pro than I think. But if that's the case, and let's say you really are interested in Aaron Rodgers, and at this point, if you are, the only option you have is Aaron Rodgers because everybody else is signed. Do you, if you do bring in Rodgers, which I don't think they will, I think this is just a rumor.
Mhm.
I don't think they have any prayer that Rodgers is interested in going
Not
there
at all.
unless he has some guarantee from Sean Payton that, hey, unless you get hurt, you're starting every game. But if he did have that guarantee, now all of a sudden Bo Nix gets benched to sit behind Aaron Rodgers for a year, and they'll frame it under the guise of it. He's hurt worse than you think. He's one of those guys who's got to be 110% healthy before we put him back in the lineup. Do you make a phone call if you're the Steelers and say, hey, look, you signed Aaron Rodgers. Would you trade a first round pick for Bo Nix? Because he's still very young.
Honestly, that that injury does. The only thing is that injury. That is
Mhm.
the only reason I am. If again, I think the injury has something to play with on why this rumor is even a thing. So I'm not sure, but if I'm taking that aside, yeah, because it doesn't look like in the first round the Steelers are going to take a quarterback. Looks like I don't even think Ty Simpson's going to be available. Why not?
Well, I mean, yeah, and I don't think Ty Simpson's the answer, but
He's not the answer. I don't think he's even going to be there. I wouldn't be surprised if like the Jets take him or something to back up Geno.
this is interesting. Is Sean Payton that big of a jerk to throw away a young quarterback? Yeah, I kind of think he is.
I think so.
I mean, him and Breeze got along famously,
Mhm.
but I mean, this is a guy who got suspended by the league for Bountygate. He has that nice little Netflix Kevin James feel good movie out there, but I I've never been a huge Sean Payton fan. And I always gave Tomlin a bunch of crap. I mean, Payton's won a little more in the playoffs than Tomlin did.
Mhm.
But I mean, essentially, I thought it was interesting too this week, and we'll talk about Mike McCarthy here in a minute. But Mike McCarthy, John Harbaugh, Mike Tomlin, Sean Payton, they're all the same guy.
Yep.
They got one Super Bowl. They've had moderate playoff success. All have kind of underachieved a little bit, but I don't know. Peyton, Tomlin was always, hey, I'm a player's coach. I'm a player's coach. He couldn't get any players, but he was a player's coach. Couldn't develop any players, I should say, to be more specific. And Peyton's a quarterback whisperer. He's an offensive guru. Well, is he? I mean, what's he done without Drew Brees? I mean, he was okay with Bo Nix, but it's not like, they put up 13 points against the Jets in England this year. So I don't know. And, from a Steelers perspective, we talked about Kirk Cousins. He goes and signs with Las Vegas. There is no backup plan if you're the Steelers. If Aaron did go to Denver, there's no backup plan.
No, you'd have to have Will Howard. You would have to just throw him in there because, I mean, you would really have no other backup plan. Yeah, the plan B is gone if Aaron Rodgers walks away. That's no question. It just leaves, I think, the Steelers with like a draft. They're gonna be desperate. They'll take somebody in the draft. They'll do something, a panic trade, or something. I'm very interested. I don't know what to make of the Raiders signing Kirk Cousins because obviously Fernando Mendoza is going to be number one. I don't know if it's okay. They look at Tom Brady specifically because I think he's obviously the guy that's been very adamant behind the scenes, just speculating that he wants Fernando Mendoza. Maybe they're looking at it in terms of, okay, this is why I brought this up kind of like earlier on with like Jaden, not Jaden Daniels, not bringing him up. I'm just talking about like, first round quarterbacks who have been successful. But when you look at in the last few years with like, you know, even the number ones, right? Bryce Young hasn't really done much. Caleb Williams is now getting into the groove. Cam Ward had a horrible rookie year. Um, who else can I think of the top of my head? Burrow. I mean, he's okay now. Like, I think he's a little overrated. But my point is, maybe they're looking at it and like, okay, the first round quarterbacks, first pick quarterbacks, maybe they're recently we see they're not reaching, the way that we want them to in the first year. They're not getting us to the playoffs, which I think a lot of these owners and fans expect. Got people like Cam Ward to take the Titans all of a sudden, flip it around and get him to a playoff team. I think they're like, okay, maybe if we get this kid behind somebody who's been in the league for a while, who's kind of been there, done that. Not that Kirk Cousins has ever been there or done that, but he's been in the league for a minute, is what I'm trying to say. Has played in some big games. I don't think he'll start. If he starts, I think he starts for 1 or 2 games. I just, again, we talked about this off air. His agent deserves to be in the Hall of Fame because what the hell? What, dude?
Remember,
What?
remember early in his career when RG3 kind of got hurt, and then Washington put him in,
Yeah.
and then they were like, "Well, we're not sold, so we're going to franchise him." So all of a sudden, he gets top 10, or really top 5 quarterback money, and they franchised him 3 years in a row. So he made ridiculous money, and then he goes and signs a huge contract because he played just good enough. I am no Cousins fan because, I mean, to me, a quarterback's got to play the best when the lights are bright. I mean, the guy can't even win a Monday night football games. Never mind playoff games. But I think so. If Vegas takes him, it just eases the transition, the pressure of the number 1 pick. But I mean, I can't see how you can draft Mendoza number 1 and sell to your fan base unless they just realize, look, man, we can make some picks and maybe we'll be good. And if the offensive line is good, maybe we will put you out there. But if the offensive line is going to be a train wreck and you don't go get anything more than, Brock Bowers and whoever is going to play wide receiver, who's probably a 5th wide receiver on any other team, okay, maybe you sit.
Texas
I'm actually
now
Austin
Texas is
Angels is
open
chiming
door
in
to new
again.
TurboTax.
Please God, do not say Mason Rudolph. Um,
That those words would never come out of my mouth. I will never say Mason Rudolph.
so I call them the Masonites, who the Mason Rudolph truthers, who are still hanging on to this concept that somehow, if only Mason got his 18th chance, he would be really really good. The guy, I mean, he doesn't know this system. He's not a Mike McCarthy guy. He wasn't really an Arthur Smith guy. I mean, at this point, I really wish they'd cut him because if you're going to go Will Howard, you don't want the temptation of Mason Rudolph. If you're going to bring in Aaron Rodgers and you're like, well, Mason might win us a game or two. Okay, well, wouldn't you rather lose a game or two if Aaron gets hurt with Will Howard? Because it ain't like Mason won us any games last year.
No, I think people are hung up on that run where he comes in, he beats Seattle, or he comes in at the end of the season, gets into the playoffs, and then, oh, here comes the Bills, and we saw the real Mason Rudolph. He tried to do an experiment with Tennessee, did not work out. I don't see why people want him around. I think people want him around because of that what I just mentioned. He did come in clutch at the end of that season to get us into the playoffs. I just, again, I agree. I wish they would cut him. I think they're going to be tempted a lot to start Mason because they're automatically going to assume he's been here for a while. He's been here not really since the beginning of his career. They're going to think he knows the system, and it's just, I don't know. I think Will Howard getting injured during the rookie camps or the OTAs or whatever it was, that really screwed him up because I think he was going to play a lot in the preseason. Instead, we got Skylar Thompson. So I think that hurt Will Howard a little bit, but I think, I don't it's tough. It is tough. I don't know if Kirk Cousins was gonna be the savior in Pittsburgh. This might be a hot take. I don't know if I personally might have rather kept Aaron around rather than go for Cousins. Because I know there were some people that even, wanted Kirk Cousins, that some people that I talked to, let's have Kirk Cousins and not Rodgers. And I'm like, well, let me, I'll hear you out, but I think Rodgers right now is the best fit for Aaron or for the Steelers, especially with Mike McCarthy. I think it's written right there in front of us.
Yeah, and for a guy, McCarthy always says they talk all the time. Well, if you really talk all the time,
Yeah.
that then you already kind of know the deal. I really feel like Aaron has just said, "Look, Mike, I know the offense. You don't need me there to install it. Whatever wrinkles you have, I'll pick up. I'll be there when training camp starts. Don't worry. Let Will have the OTAs. Okay, let
Yes.
him learn the offense from the ground up. And who knows? Maybe I'll sign the last day of OTAs and I'll show up for mini camps and things like that, and just let him throw and stand there. I feel like Aaron. For Rodgers, I feel like it's Pittsburgh or nobody. And I think if he was going to retire, he would have retired already. I this will be 3 years in a row where he doesn't want to show up to OTAs. I just think, hey, I'm a 40-plus-year-old quarterback, and now you're putting in an offense I know. I don't need to be here for this. I don't need to stand out here, and do all that.
It's,
I like the idea of Will Howard going maybe to the OTAs. Although when we talk about Will Howard here in a minute, I'm going to float the other name that I think is possible from the draft. But I'm telling you what, I mean, other than Cooper Rush, who I talked about on Monday, I don't know who you would get at this point based off of the scrap heap of free agent quarterbacks. And the only reason I would say get Cooper Rush, other than being a fan of him, is he knows McCarthy's system too. He knows it a hell of a lot better than Mason Rudolph, and I'd take Cooper Rush over Mason Rudolph, every
yeah.
day of the year.
Yeah, I would too. But no, I think I would agree with what you're saying. I think it's in Pittsburgh or nothing with Rodgers. My only thing is, if if him and McCarthy are talking, like you mentioned, if he was gonna retire, he would have already. Why isn't he just okay? Just sign. What is taking him so long? Or why didn't you just sign a 2-year deal last year? I'm just tired of. I'm not tired of these conversations because we know, this makes good conversations for us. This gives us content to do. I'm not mad about having these conversations. I'm pissed off about it's the same ones every year. Who's going to be our quarterback? Who's going to be our quarterback? I, I
Yeah,
would like to go an off season knowing who my quarterback's going to be before the season, before mandatory training camps start.
yeah. And you look at it, I think Cleveland's had a different starting quarterback. You know, 25 out of 27 years.
Yeah, so I'm,
So
I'm grateful that I'm not a Browns fan. Let's be like, I'm gonna get that out of the way. But again, I've said this numerous times on my show. Omar Khan's one job is to get us a quarterback, and he's a failure because he hasn't done it. A long-term quarterback, not sticking a bandage on a big cut until
well,
that day happens, man.
in fairness though, he did get stuck with Kenny Pickett, so they had to play that out. And then he
Yes,
goes and gets Justin Fields, but Mike Tomlin goes and promises the job to Russell Wilson. So he gets both of them for less than $5 million, and realizes, the one thing I will say about Omar is he cuts bait quick. So hey,
fair. And no, I give him credit. The only criticism I've given him is the quarterback. Because I think him coming in, I did not expect us to pick up a receiver like DK Metcalf after George Pickens left.
Mhm.
Like, or at least, let me rephrase it. When George Pickens was rumored to be leaving, or this was going to be his last year in Pittsburgh before DK was even signed. I didn't think I thought we were done. No, we're not going to get a receiver who's nobody. He got us DK, got us a solid wide receiver too. Cut the entire coaching staff. I don't know. Again, don't know if it was Tomlin. It's just Rooney. I think that's still up for air. But the point is, he's willing to move on and try things. That's why I give him credit. It's that one thing. It's the quarterback position. That's my only true criticisms with Omar Khan right now.
Which I mean, it's kind of fair, and then you wonder how much Tomlin had to do with it. As far
Yeah,
as,
because
hey, I want Russell Wilson, I want Aaron Rodgers.
I see that too, but like, I think just Tomlin had a lot to do with everything. I think this year we're really gonna see it because look, we talk, Tomlin's my guy. Tomlin's really the only coach I got the last year of Cower, so Tomlin's the only coach I've ever seen in my 23 years of being a Steelers fan. My thing is, I'm thinking about it now that he's not there. Now that we're really gonna see how this season looks. I wonder just how our defense is gonna look. Not to get into the Tomlin thing, but it's like I think he had so much control in the defense as well because you brought up he having a little control maybe on the quarterback situation, which I think he did because you brought up Justin Fields and Russell Wilson. When Justin Fields clearly looked better, and I think you should have stuck with him. But I think Tomlin had a lot to do with just overseeing too much, and I think a lot of things are going to look different because I think he had with the defense. I think a lot of people came at Terrell Austin a little too much, when I think Tomlin was the one calling a lot of the shots.
Well, I mean, if you look at it, Terrell Austin was a bad defensive coordinator when they hired him.
Yes.
He was bad in Cincinnati and Detroit, but he ran cover for Mike Tomlin so they could blame. The big issue I have with Tomlin is that, okay, you're a defensive coach. You catch your teeth as a secondary coach. Who did we ever develop in the secondary? I mean, you can kind of say Joey Porter a little bit, but that's really at the end. I mean, Ike Taylor was already there and established. I mean, we didn't pick good guys in the secondary. You drafted guys like Artie Burns and Terrell Edmonds. I mean, what the hell? And then we have the highest paid defense for the last 3 years. And our new defensive coordinator had a better defense statistically with the Raiders as far as yardage than we did with the highest paid defense in Pittsburgh. I mean, they tried to turn a 3-4 into a Tampa 4-3, a Tampa 2, but they never committed to it. I mean, I would have much rather have seen, and I still think this is going to happen in the next year or two. I would have much rather seen us go to a 4-3 5 years ago and just turn it into okay, we're going to go Tampa 2. You run Dick LeBeau out of town. We're not going to be Blitzburg anymore. We're just going to invest. TJ was big enough to play defensive end.
Yes.
You could have had TJ move Cam inside, defensive tackle. With the guys they drafted, would we have Alex Highsmith? Probably not, because we're not playing a 3-4 edge. But there were edge rushers there to be had. I'm so excited for the season, but I'm so frustrated with the idea of, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do at quarterback? I would love it if Aaron would sign and we just put it to bed. I do think it's going to happen. I think they may be saving it for that first night in Pittsburgh at the draft, where they announce the first round pick and maybe at the end of the night say, oh, by the way, Aaron Rodgers signed tonight. So that
we'll see. I think that'd be something. I remember. You remember last year? I don't know if you watched it, where McAfee did the McAfee thing in Pittsburgh, and I watched the whole thing. Everybody I was watching to see if Rodgers was going to come out and say I'm here. Like, I'll be honest. So I think you had that part. It makes for good speculation. And I'm thinking of wrestling mind right now. TV ratings.
You get the pop.
You get the pop. Like you get the pop,
yeah.
right? You get the hometown pop. Aaron Rodgers signing with the Steelers. But yeah, no, I think it's gonna happen again. It's either he retires or he's playing another year. I think our team's slightly better offense. I'm speaking just offensively right now. Offensively, our team's better. I think they could utilize Pat Freiermuth better. then you pay him good money. All right, use him the way you're supposed to. The run game, all that stuff. I do think him coming is our best option at this point. I think it's always been. I don't think Kirk Cousins really. If we would have gotten Kirk Cousins, I wouldn't have been excited. I just you have Will Howard right there. I've seen Will Howard play at Ohio State. His playoff run, it's a really great playoff run. He played in big situations. You talk about him, he loses the Michigan game, and I know we're going to talk about him right now. But when he loses that Michigan game, I'm upset. Everybody in Ohio State, he's upset, and he plays phenomenal playoff football. Beats Tennessee, beats Texas, goes on to beat Notre Dame in the national championship. Throws, I don't have the exact number in front of me, but he threw for one of the most yards in the college football playoffs. So he's right there, guys. He's right there. I got to watch him his last year at Ohio State. I'm telling you, he should have not. McCarthy's true. What his statement was correct. He should have not been a 6th round pick.
Right. For so those of you who don't know, McCarthy sat down for an interview and said that they talked about Will Howard and, hey, are you really that high on a 6th round pick? And he said if he had been drafting, Will Howard would not have been a 6th round pick. Don't know how I feel about that. The one job that's open that he wants, he just happens to be in love with the quarterback. I don't know about that. But that being said, he's apparently a fan. And if he's willing to roll into the season, now the plan might be, and McCarthy might have said when he got hired, he could have said to Art, hey, look, we're going to do everything we can to win. And if we get Aaron, we're going to go for it. But if you got Will Howard out there, let's face it, we're trying to draft as high as possible next year. If it works out, great. If it doesn't, no problem. We'll have a top 10 pick.
Yeah, I think like I mentioned, he was very solid. I'm not gonna say he's elite, a top 10 pick or anything. I don't even think he's a 1st round pick. 2nd round, you could argue, but I do think when his size, he's a tall quarterback who can run like hell and can throw the ball. I mean, his size alone makes, he's very hard to tackle when he runs. He threw for over 1,000 yards in that playoff game, only threw 2 interceptions. He plays in clutch situations.
The playoff run.
The playoff
record. 1,001 game would have been impressive.
No. The playoff run.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been right. And then no, the playoff run as a whole, he threw. I think he either did or almost did. But my point is, I know he only threw like 2 picks. So again, he's good in clutch situations and big games, and I think that could play a role. Again, it's very much different from college. NFL didn't get to have any reps last year, but like you said, I think you pretty much put it in the best way. If he starts and he's good, cool. If he's not, get us a top 10 pick.
Yeah, and then anyone in the draft I would pick. There is a guy. So I've said this before, and I'll keep saying his name. And the Steelers did have him in for a visit, which is a good sign because they generally do not pick guys that don't at least come in for a visit. Mm-hmm. And that's Cole Payton from North Dakota State. South Dakota State. Look, the guy is, if you go watch him, his tape, and yes, he was throwing to Bryce Lance against Division II athletes. I totally get that. But man, that kid is accurate. And, I've heard the name Taylor Green a lot. And look, I love the fact that Taylor Green ran a fast 40, and he's got it. I mean, Taylor Green to me is Joe Milton with Michael Vick speed. And he could throw the ball all the way the length of the field. The problem is that when you're running a 10-yard pattern and he launches it into the other end zone, I'm not excited about that. I've heard the buzz on Nussmeier all of a sudden now as a possible 3rd round pick. I was never that high on him, but if you're going to go with one of those smaller quarterbacks, I guess I kind of like him best over like Klubnik and Simpson because he's kind of a gunslinger. He started some games, and was he great? He was pretty good 2 years ago. He wasn't very good last year. So if I'm taking a shot in the third round, I'd kind of like to have a guy who at least I can point to and say, like Peyton, he's got a big arm. He can throw the ball. You
He's
know,
left-handed, yeah.
Nussmeier, he'll throw it. He
Joining
doesn't have a
me,
great
Judy
arm.
Batista.
Neither does Simpson. To me, neither does neither does Kate Clubman. And I know everybody likes Drew Aller. Look, man, Aller, and I know people make excuses for him because sorry, my camera's going crazy for him. People make excuses because of the Penn State thing. Oh, he didn't get good coaching. He didn't get good coaching. Look, if there's anybody in college football right now who doesn't like the coaching they're getting, and Chris, I know you can speak to this, you could pick up your ball and go get paid to go play somewhere else.
Yeah, I mean, dude, go to Ohio State if you want your money. That I know that firsthand. I mean, Franklin leaving Penn State, you know, I don't. They still have their money. The point is, all these schools got money. I mean, one person we're not talking about. I don't think anybody's talking about. Which I'm not saying we need to be talking about. He's nothing special at all. But Carson Beck, because I wouldn't be surprised if he falls in the third round. You know, with the Steelers. He's somebody that again he got hurt in Georgia and he went to Miami to go take that money. So you know that's very much true, but I don't know. He's one person that kind of came to my mind. I don't think he's anything special. I don't think he's, you know, I'm not saying go get him. He's definitely a third round pick, but I don't know. I heard some Carson Beck talk, Bob.
Yeah, no, I've heard it too. And you know what I find interesting? Again, kind of like a Bo Nix thing. He's in college for 11 years, Dr.
Yes.
Beck. I mean, that's who he should be. But McCarthy said some very interesting things this week. He said the floor is more important than the ceiling, which made me think, man, are they in on Carson Beck? I wouldn't love it. But if you're thinking, okay, here's the floor, we're not sure about Aaron. If I bring in Beck to compete with Will Howard, if Will Howard wins the job outright, that's fine. If not, maybe Beck can actually, you know, be okay. But again, I think with Beck that we're actually looking at, okay, we're going to win 5 or 6 games. Hey, Relic's here.
No,
Will
I
Howard for
agree.
QB1. I know Relic is a huge Will Howard fan. So.
Shout out to Relic, man. I'm also a huge Will Howard fan. But no, I think his injury hurt his stock. It really hurt his stock. I think again, him going to the national championship might have raised it. But again, he had a visit with the Steelers, didn't he?
He did.
So
he did. Yeah. It's possible,
right? Okay,
it's possible.
I know he had a meeting with the Dolphins and the Cardinals. So I don't know if he had a meeting with the Steelers or not. But you know, I don't know how strong I am. The injury, obviously, he's I think 6'4", something like that. So he has decent size. Well, you know, I didn't get to catch any of it. Did he do the combine? He participated in the combine. I didn't get to see it. I didn't get to see any combine stuff. Unfortunately, I was doing a lot of wrestling stuff.
Yeah, he was okay at the combine. I mean, I don't know how much any quarterback, if you don't look good at the combine, then really.
Yeah.
And that's my knock on Will Howard. Will Howard did not look good 2 years ago at the combine.
He did not, and that's
yes.
He did
that's
not.
That's why he fell so much.
Yeah, I agree, and but I do give him credit for doing the combine because a lot of national champions fresh off I don't think would have done the combine. If I don't know if Caleb Williams would have won the national championship, he ain't doing the fucking combine.
Well, yeah, but Caleb Williams a little bit different.
Fair.
You know what's interesting is pick 76. Okay,
yes,
for the Steelers in
third
the
round. Yep.
round. That's the George Pickens pick. If they go out and pick a quarterback, and it turns out whoever it is, miracle of miracles, he turns out to be the guy. Then all of a sudden we have to reevaluate that and look at that as like, hey, Omar threw away a problem. pick 76, and all of a sudden he drafts, let's say, I don't think it's going to happen, but let's just say Carson Beck turns into a franchise quarterback, or Garrett Nussmeier.
I was gonna bring him up next.
Yeah,
Because he's another one I think is gonna be in the beginning of the third round, maybe even late second. I don't know off the top of my head which teams in the late second round would draft a quarterback. I know the Seahawks are in the late second. They don't need a quarterback. Same thing with it's a lot of the good teams that are in the late second round that don't need quarterbacks. So he's gonna fall into the top round of the third round. Maybe Arizona, because again, he's one of the teams that I mentioned with Carson Beck. He also did, I believe, Garrett also did meet with them. So I think one of those guys, I wouldn't be surprised if we get him in the third round. It's, again, are we go. If Aaron Rodgers leaves, I think this is his last year if he plays, no matter what. Even, if we won and done, whatever, this is his last run. Is it that we start Will Howard next year and he becomes like a backup? Is it a fight between our third round pick and Will Howard next year? I'm kind of curious on how that's going to play out. But I think it all depends on who it is. Because if it's Carson Beck and Will Howard, let's say, Aaron Rodgers is done. We still got Will Howard there and they draft Carson Beck. Carson Beck is the third string this year. Rodgers retires and then you just go up. It's a real battle there. It's a real battle there. So I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting to figure out who we get in that third round at pick 76.
I think if Rodgers comes back, you probably don't take the flyer until like day 3. But if Rodgers doesn't come back, then you got to do it. But either way, I think the solution is probably in next year's draft, and you do whatever you got to do next year to trade up high enough. Because let's say Aaron does come back and you go, 10, 11 wins, you make the playoffs. Maybe you win a playoff game. Hell, maybe you get really lucky and go win.
Go to the AFC Championship.
Yeah. But at that point, okay, so fine. Trade the next 3 years worth of first round picks to move up high enough to get, maybe you're not going to get Arch Manning, but maybe you get the third or fourth best quarterback in the first round, and now he turns into your guy. I mean, I don't know. I part of me wants to see the Howard experiment, only because I think it'll go bad. But look, let's just be honest. For those of you who don't know the history, and I tell people this all the time, the Steelers haven't picked higher than 8th since Terry Bradshaw in 1970. They haven't finished last in the division since 1988. So thinking that we're somehow, even the year we got Ben, we started off okay. Tommy just kind of faded down the stretch, was hurt a little bit, and he just didn't play great down the stretch, and we ended up 6-10, and we got the pick for Ben. But we were pick 11 in that draft. Eli and Phillip Rivers go before him. Mm-hmm. If that draft doesn't have Eli Manning and Phillip Rivers, we don't get Ben Roethlisberger.
You're 100% right.
And let's be honest, Bill Cowher didn't want Ben Roethlisberger. Dan Rooney stepped in and said, "We're taking the quarterback."
Okay, interesting. I don't know how I feel about that one. Obviously, I was very. I don't know, man. That's a tough one.
So, Relic, you got my plan here, buddy. Yes. Okay, if you roll Will Howard as number 1, although I do think you'd have to start the vet and then let Howard ease into it. My man, Cooper Rush, is out there. Dump Mason, cut Mason, bring in Cooper Rush, nobody will be lobbying that, we got to keep Cooper Rush in to win games if Aaron retires. Look, if it's going to happen. It's going to happen either at the draft or shortly thereafter. Whenever mini camp is almost over, that's probably when he's going to say, okay, yeah, I'm back. But if it doesn't, yeah, I love the idea. Look, if I'm not against Will Howard. I mean, if he comes in and plays great, I'll be the first guy jumping up and down rooting for him. I just don't think it's gonna happen, but I'd be really excited if it did.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna come in and be Jaden Daniels. I don't think that at all. I think that's the new expectation now, is the Jaden Daniels coming in your rookie year and going to the conference championship. But no, look, I don't.
And look at Caleb Williams kind of filled that when Jaden was hurt this year. Caleb Williams stepped up and played
Yeah,
pretty well.
played
Another guy I wasn't really high on, but Ben Johnson really turned that guy into something. Coaching matters. It matters so much.
It matters tremendously. And again, McCarthy, I think his quarterback history kind of it speaks for itself. And I think if he's saying that about Will Howard, then I think he's gonna get his shot. I do. I think there will be some, even if Rodgers is there. I think he obviously plays majority of the preseason, and it's one of those things where if Rodgers doesn't start out hot, maybe we start the first 4 games we only win 2 of them. I think there's we start 2-4 or something like that. I think there's a real shot that Will Howard comes in.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. If we fall out of the playoff race early, you gotta go. You gotta go. And Relic, I get it, man. Well, actually, he was more mobile than
I was just gonna say he was more mobile last year than there were some times I'm like, oh my god, he's like scared for my life. He had a rushing touchdown last year.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, he also had plays where it looked like he was going to run for 10 yards and got caught at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
But when you compare it to the guy who signed with the Raiders, like when people started saying, well, Rodgers isn't mobile, we want Kirk Cousins. I was like, have you ever watched Kirk Cousins play? I mean, he's not mobile.
No.
I mean, he stands there and gets taken down. It'd be interesting. Like if you did get Will Howard, I'd be interested to see how does McCarthy evolve his offense, because he's not going to just stand back there and throw the ball, which is what most McCarthy quarterbacks do. Does he throw in the wrinkles, the naked boots, maybe throw in the options, a bunch of read option plays?
You can do that with Will Howard very well. They did it at Ohio State, because Ohio State we ran a 2. We had a lot of, I don't know how to explain it. The way I watched Will Howard, like when you had Travion Henderson out in the field, and you had what's his fucking Krishan Jenkins, he ran that option very, very well. And I think, again, he's the guy you want. I'm not saying he's Justin Fields. I'm not saying, like, how Justin Fields came in and they really used him like that. People were saying put Justin Fields put a package set together just for Justin Fields to do stuff like that. You can do that with Will Howard, but the thing is, he can throw the ball. If there's a situation this year where, I'm taking it back to that season where Russell Wilson was that guy. He goes down and all of a sudden we're 4-2. You don't think if that happens this year, Will Howard, I'm curious if he does something like that, I think you keep him.
You have to keep him. If the young quarterback is winning games, and this is why I was all about it with Justin Fields. If the young quarterback's winning games, you stick with the young quarterback. You just roll and keep on going. It's it'll be interesting.
It's gonna be very interesting.
We're gonna know where we're gonna
be, dude. Trust me, we're gonna be the first people here. That's gonna be a very, very, very good time. The draft. That first game, man, I'm just curious to see what the conversation is going to look like after week 1, man. Wow. That's going to be some interest. Do you think we keep Mason? Unfortunately.
I think there's a chance he gets cut, but it's really...
I hope so, but it's very low.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be Aaron comes back. They pick a quarterback on either late day 2 or day 3, and Will Howard becomes the backup. That guy's the third stringer. Then I could see Mason getting cut.
Yeah.
Mason.
Yeah, because
Mason
that's
a bum.
That's kind of what I mean, he's going to be like what Skylar Thompson was, essentially. He's just going to, we don't have room for you on the roster. You're done, kid. He was that 4th kind of quarterback, played in a couple preseason games. Actually kind of whatever. I think, even Mason Rudolph in the preseason looked okay with Darnell throwing that touchdown pass to Darnell Washington against Jacksonville. Guys, preseason does not mean shit. So, again, I'm not going to sit, even if Will Howard is godlike in the preseason, I'm not going to sit here and say start him or anything, especially if Rodgers is there. But I think it means something in the sense of, because it's still the NFL, can you adapt? Can you read an NFL defense? Can you adjust to the coaching? All that different stuff really behind your initial quarterback skill. I think that's really what they look for in the preseason. And if he can adapt to those things, I think you give the kid a shot when you need it. I'm not saying, if Rodgers, like you said, if Rodgers is winning games, keep him. If the young kid's keeping games, keep him. If we got what we got going on right now and it's working, don't make the change, because they made that mistake with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, in my opinion, and I think you would kind of agree with it as well. So whatever they do here, they got to make sure that they have their solid backup, because again, Aaron Rodgers, is the arm in last year. Like, there's a very good chance that something could go down. Hopefully not as serious as it was, with the Jets and his ACLs and all that, but something could go down. I just want the Steelers to prepare Will Howard. If they even see some type of future with him, which McCarthy clearly does.
Yeah, unless Relic saying that Howard would have to start next year. If they go get a first-round draft choice,
I don't see it. I would agree. If they get a first-round pick, if they do get Ty Simpson, I don't even. I don't
think it'd be Ty Simpson.
I don't think it's going to be Ty Simpson, but right. I think if they do get a quarterback at 21, that dude, he's going to be your next prospect. It's still going to be they're the media. If you're at the training camps, they're going to, it's a quarterback battle, like they kind of try to make it do with Russell Wilson and Justin Fields. We knew it wasn't a quarterback battle.
If they get a first rounder in 27, that's your long-term starter, or at least your next 2 or 3 years.
Yes.
So I know you got a hard stop here. You got SmackDown coming up. Tell everybody where they can see it.
Yeah,
tonight.
If you guys want to watch Friday Night SmackDown with me and my good friend Kev over on the Sports Jedi Network, it's on Rumble, the streaming platform Rumble tonight. We'll show you the footage. A lot of things going on with WrestleMania. We got Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes stuff. And then tomorrow, 1 o'clock, we will be going live for our show. It's called Weekly Wrestling. We get we get a couple thousand, over a little 1,000 people there. So hopefully to see you guys there if you're interested in pro wrestling. And me and Bob will be back here next Friday to talk some more Steelers ball.
Absolutely. And a couple programming notes. Easter Sunday, there's not going to be a Novocaine Fantasy Sports, but we are going to put out a video with our quick pitches. So if you're going to bet with us this week, then you'll know who it is we're picking. Monday night, we'll be back. I think I'm going to have a guest on Monday night for Mock Draft Monday.
Ooh, there we go.
Do that with me. Yeah, so it should be pretty fun. I'll put that out on X. And that's all I got, unless you got something else, Chris.
No, I got nothing. Just let's keep an eye on Rodgers. Again, it could be any moment. I know, I didn't believe Scheffner's bullshit when he said it's going to be in March. It's going to be in March, anytime in March. No, Shefty, you're not a Steelers fan, bud. We know how this shit works. So we'll see how that works. We'll see when that plays out. And like I said, we'll be the first ones here to talk about it.
All right, guys. Well, check out the show over on PGHChrisTV and Sports Jedi. WrestleMania season. If you love pro wrestling, there's no better time. And NFL draft. It's like it's now it's April. We're through the dog days of February. 3 weeks away. It's like Christmas.
Yep.
So
I'm excited.
All right. I'll talk to you guys on Monday night.
See you guys.